Okay, so we're going to continue on with more terms. We're going to go to high relief sculpture. It's pretty much sculpture that's been in high relief, that's been carved really deeply. You're going to see that in Jacob and Esau with Giberti's piece. You're going to see that with Michelangelo's David. You're just going to see these variations of carvings, so just know the general specifics of that. So going on, we're going to talk about St. Anthony's Fire. Now, if you see, there's a painting by Martin Schnagauer. I can't really say his last name. It's a weird German name. But it's Demons Tormenting St. Anthony. And the story behind that is there was actually a thing called ergotism. And it was also known as St. Anthony's Fire. And it was actually caused by it was actually caused by like some kind of fungus within wheat, and when people ingest it, they would get like just sores, and they would have these hallucinations. It was kind of a weird psychedelic. Sorry, that was my cat. And so what this did is this kind of led to like a suspicion of bewitchment, or that demons were attacking these people that were being diagnosed with this and stuff like that. So that's why it's called St. Anthony's Fire. And also, St. Anthony's Fire is a martyr who, I think he is the martyr or the saint of skin disease. So that's why it's called St. Anthony's Fire. So that's really specific. You're going to need to know that, especially for those pieces, to understand the context behind them and where these ideas came from. So now we're going to move to guilds. And guilds was kind of formed in Florence, in this headquarters. It was like in Orsa Michele, I think. I don't know how to say it, but I'll write it down below as well, the origin of it. But it was this like kind of church thing that had these like huge architectural niches, and within each niche, like a specific guild would be required to commission an artist to make a sculpture that was like specific to their purpose. So there was like swords guilds, bow and arrow guilds, all sorts of guilds. But the ones you're going to need to know is like St. George, I believe. You're going to need to know who the artist was, Donatello, and you're going to need to know that he made it for this guild. And so just understand that that's the context that's behind that as well. There's this idea of a Renaissance window. I mean, we've talked about how in Renaissance art, artists really wanted to look as though you were looking into a window. Like, it was trying to make it seem like they were looking at something naturalistic. Like, you can actually touch that person, you can touch that fabric, you can touch like anything, that texture. So that's what that Renaissance window is. We talked a lot about it in Mona Lisa, and with her eyes, and how like, even though like she was sort of tilted slightly, like her face wasn't completely like frontal view like I am right now, but it was more like kind of looking straight towards you. And that was just the concept of the Renaissance window. Like, you're actually looking at that object, and that object is real. And so going on, so you're going to see this term Sgraffito, and it's just another fancy word for graffiti. Graffiti is actually the plural. It's graffiti, and it's pretty much this method of like etchings on the wall. And you see that with the Palazzo Medici Riccardi, the courtyard. That's where Sgraffito is present. So just know that's where that came from. You're gonna need to know some patron names. The ones that I can come up with on top of my head is Medici, Gonzanga, and Pope Julius II. Medici has played a huge multi-generation role to the art, so you're going to see them a lot through the Baroque, amongst others. And same with Gonzanga. I think I'm saying that right. I'm sorry if I'm butchering these names. But they were huge patrons to the art. So the Medici, like, you know, commissioned a ton of artists to do certain types of artwork. So Gonzaga, like, commissioned like Mantegna to do the camera Picta, and amongst other things. And Pope Julius II, you know, commissioned really famous artists like Michelangelo, Raphael, to go decorate St. Peter's. So like the Sistine ceiling, Pope Julius II commissioned that. And in addition, he also wanted to commission Michelangelo to do his tomb, which actually was never finished. But just so you know, those are really huge names with patrons that were very important in the Renaissance. And this is important because beforehand there was really never a request for commissions. I mean, there kind of was, but nothing to this extent, and not towards the same purpose. And that's to, you know, have that humanism, Neoplatonism idea go forward. Thinking, and that just sort of emphasizes the fact that these middle class people, and I mean, granted the Pope wasn't middle class, but the Medici family was a middle class family, but they were prospering so well because of these advantages they had, because of this new civil way of thinking, because of humanism, and because of Renaissance. So you see some like architecture works that you're going to see probably, I think, especially in the early Italian Renaissance, so like the Dome Cathedral, or the Dome of Florence Cathedral. So just understand that the terms cathedral, basilica, nave, transept, apse, pediment, column, arcade, and vault, they're going to be really, really important terms. I'm not going to really go into specifics because they're kind of architectural terms, and I really want to talk more about context. But just so you know, as far as cathedral goes, there's a difference between the church and the cathedral. And the cathedral is a church in which a bishop resides. So you're going to see a ton of things called cathedrals this, cathedrals that. And then all the other architectural terms, I mean, if you guys want to know about them, I'll be more specific in the review. But these are just general terms that if you haven't taken Art History 1, you probably don't really know them. So like, for example, like the basilicas is just this large oblong hall, like in a double colonnade. Like, the reason I'm not really explaining this is it's kind of difficult without having like an actual like figure or an image to show you what a basilica looks like, or what an arcade looks like. So I would recommend looking into the book, and I could probably like put in my PowerPoint, you know, some explanations. But those are just general architectural terms that are kind of not necessarily, I mean, they are important, but they're kind of generally important, just so you can understand the architecture behind it. There is one architectural term that I do want to know, let you guys know, and that's the Triumphal Arch. Because you're going to see that with a specific church in Italy, and it kind of correlates with Arch of Constantine, and it's just it's literally a triumphal arch. It's like a monumental archway, and usually, like, back in, like, Roman times, I sound really uneducated when I say that, but anyways, like, you know, back with Constantine and Titus, like, they used this arch so that they could do a parade and actually walk through it, and you could see all these reliefs. You can see these figures within these relief, like made in this relief, like telling a narrative about why it, like, what the parade is about. Like, if they fought an enemy and they defeated them and stuff like that. It's just explaining a narrative. I like to think of it more like a comic book. I see it definitely like a comic book story, like a very huge, monumental comic book story. And because you see these, like, these heroes, you know, like Constantine and Titus, like, presented several times within the arches. But the reason I'm talking to you about this is because this is kind of where you start seeing Neoplatonism, sort of. I mean, you start seeing it a lot more with Botticelli's work. Like, you see that really obviously, but with the Triumphal Arch, you see how, like, that architecture is so classical, it's so Roman, and up until the Renaissance, between the medieval times, you didn't see that architecture. You didn't see that same architecture. You didn't see those arcades. You didn't see those vaults. I mean, you saw some of them within like Gothic churches, but nothing that looked really, really like completely Roman. Like, you know what a cathedral, like what a French Gothic, like Notre Dame, you know what those look like, but the Triumphal Arch just kind of shows something different. So those are just examples I can think of. And I'm not sure if yeah, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was artworks that related to that, but there